Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over Bitcoin and the Bitcoin Miner Stocks all in one video. So with that being said, let's get it. So this is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to show all of the macro market indicators. We will do a follow-up video on that. There is no pi cycle top indicator popped up. You guys more or less know pretty much already what the indicators indicate. A lot of them are overvalued in the short term. Pretty much all of them are undervalued, or I shouldn't say all of them, but most of them are undervalued in the long term. In terms of the bull cycle, we kind of expect it to end sometime next year, probably closer to the end of next year. We expect all-time highs by the end of this year, but it looks like all-time highs might come before the end of the year. So, and that is probably mostly due to the spot Bitcoin ETFs. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first thing we're going to cover is Bitcoin here. So you guys can see that we have an indecision candle here on the weekly. It's not bullish nor bearish. It's just kind of deciding what to do. There was a massive drop today. For those of you guys that don't know, this is pretty normal in crypto. My guess is probably what happened is a lot of traders were long and they got flash crash liquidated either by some whales or bigger short sellers. This does happen in crypto. There is people that literally just trade Bitcoin. That's all they do. Day trade, swing trade, whatever. So when people stack on leverage on top of the money they already have in the market, 10, 20, 50, 100x leverage, it can cause things like this to happen. So that is kind of explainable. The other thing is the market indices got absolutely smashed today. I think all of the indices were down somewhere between 1 to 3%. That was basically on big tech. You guys can go look it up with the market news for yourself on that information. That's not really what we do here, but I kind of want to break this down. So let's go back to the point where Bitcoin was about to break out to all-time highs in the previous cycle. Okay, so we got to push up to the all-time high. You can see we kind of poked our head up here. Looks like we might have broke it a little bit, and then we had a pullback, and then we blasted off. So I guess the real question is, how much was this pullback? Well, at the time, it was roughly about the same amount of pullback that we had now. And then we blasted off to the moon. But the other thing about this is Bitcoin was not nearly as overextended back then as it is now. Excuse me. So a maximum drawdown to the red EMA at that time would have been roughly about 41%. Whereas if you guys look at where the price of Bitcoin currently is, it's actually a little bit bigger. It's at 46%. So there's a possibility that the price may end up coming back down to one of these EMAs. There's a possibility that it might not. Kind of what we're suspecting is that if this thing does drop, it's going to drop to somewhere between 44 to 52,000. Again, it is massively overextended. But it doesn't mean it can't go higher. But there are some warning signs going on here. So this bull flag broke out and then we got an immediate rejection. That is a little bit concerning because the price target once again is 77,000. We'll just measure that out here. So basically from the bottom of this move to the flag, the top of the flag here, then to the breakout point, you guys can roughly see the target is roughly about $77,000, which we have not had yet. If this is to play out, basically this sell-off in the immediate short term is just a short-term dump. It doesn't mean that it's not going to go higher. It just means that, some really risky traders, hopefully they had their stop losses in, got stopped out on some leverage, and that's probably what that is. And you probably also have people that bought at the top that were taking profits from the last bull run peak, and you also have people that are probably day trading or swing trading that have been maybe swing trading from down here at these levels from 40,000 to up here, and they said, okay, it's at the peak, I want to take some profit. They're looking for a drop in the markets and then expecting to get back in higher. So what we're looking for, what we told you guys we were looking for before, is the 4 hourly to cross, or basically for price action to close below the 4 hourly and close down and then basically move down, and then we have a death cross. So kind of what we're looking for is that, and then we'll start DCing back into Bitcoin. We do have a little bit. We have like basically 2% of a Bitcoin, But as you guys can see here on the 4 hourly, if we scroll back for a while, it has been eons since this happened. Basically, this has not happened since, well, it pretty much hasn't happened since the start of January, or the start of the year, I should say. So when we had this death cross, as you guys can see here, a confirmed close below, that gave us plenty of time to be able to buy the dip on Bitcoin. It had a pretty large drop, about 15%. And if we actually go over here to the daily time frame, if I can find the price, there we go. So if we go over here to the daily time frame, this is way off. I don't know what the heck happened here. Sorry about that. Let's try to see if we can find this again. So, okay, so here's the January dump that we had straight off of the March highs. This pretty much gave us about, looks like 14 days to be able to buy the dip, which is not much when the prices are moving higher. But you guys got to remember, the reason why we would be wanting to buy Bitcoin potentially instead of altcoins is not that, well, Bitcoin obviously is a more stable asset, but altcoins have much higher return potential. But the reason being is because we had been stacking altcoins since basically June of 2022. So we already have massive altcoin positions, really huge altcoin positions. And we kind of want to get a little bit more BTC and ETH for the long-term bags, so to speak, on the dip before it moves up. That's just kind of our thinking here. We were thinking that we were going to position trade this somewhere in this area between this flag breakout and the peak up here, but it moved up much faster than expected. So maybe just kind of buy and hold at this point. So we go out down to the hourly. You guys can see that we're already getting the death cross. This one was actually much more pronounced than this one. You can see we didn't really even go down below the EMAs. It was kind of a fake out. Then we ripped. You can see that the dump on this was much larger. So it's a little bit more concerning. There is something else I want to point out too, that you guys may not be aware of this, but we saw something very similar back in 2023 as well, roughly about the same time of year. So if we go back here and look at February of 2023, you can see we kind of topped out here and then fell off for about a month or two. Same thing with Ethereum. So January, February moved up, then dropped into March, then moved back up. But more importantly, I want to point out the altcoins here. If you guys are into altcoin positions currently, this is even more pronounced in altcoins. Altcoins generally take longer to recover. So up in January and kind of February somewhat, and then down and down and down. Dogecoin did not recover for another 7 or 8 months. Just try to find a few more of these that are obvious too. So yeah, again, topped here on compound in February and dropped down to June. And I could keep going on and on down this list. And what's ironic about this too is all of these altcoins are sitting at major resistance currently. So again, January, February, this one topped out actually in March and April, and then we saw a drop in it. Again, these are not all going to pump or dump all at the same time. They're probably going to happen slightly differently. So again, February dropped all the way down to August. You guys can see it kind of peaked in this resistance. We'll go over another one that we've looked at, but we don't actually have any yet, which is ICP. Again, another altcoin that basically went up in January, February, as you guys can see here, December, January, February, sold off in March, came back in April, and then sold off basically all the way until September. And notice that each one of these altcoins that we look at, every time it dropped from a resistance level. So again, from resistance, boom, came down. You can even take a look at something like Chainlink. Chainlink here, again, I guess it kind of did actually drop from resistance. You can see these multi-peaks here. So February dropped, came back up, hit that same resistance, dropped again, came back in June, hit resistance again, came back down. And I can go on and on with these altcoins and Bitcoin and Ethereum, but the point is that the dump happened around the same time last year. So don't be surprised if March is kind of more bearish month for crypto and altcoins. So that's Bitcoin and altcoins. Now let's get into the miners. We're not going to cover coin and MSTR in this video. We'll cover that in another video. So which one do we start with here? So we'll start with BTBT. As you guys can see, the Bitcoin miner stocks are still really cheap. This is about to enter into the buy zone. It's very, very low at this point. Pretty much from here to the swing high, you're looking at a massive move, about 125%. Cypher, another one that's we've been talking about that we have a pretty decent sized position in. Again, if this one has a massive move up, you're talking nearly 100% just from where it's at right now, even if it does not come back into the zone. So we'll take a look at BitF. BitF, very similar. It's getting back down to that major buy zone there. Although we don't have any BitF, we were asked to cover this one, so we did, about 62%. HUD8, this one, in my opinion, is a gold mine. I think this is probably going to be the best performer on the next pump because of the fact that it's been so suppressed. I mean, this move could be huge. So 209%, and we'll look more in depth into the miner stocks in correlation with Bitcoin and how they move with each other, or what the timing is on that in a later video. But this is just kind of to cover current crypto and Bitcoin seasonality according to what happened last cycle and also last year, roughly around the same time, January, February. February was, generally speaking, roughly about the peak of that move in crypto, and then we dumped for a little while after that, like a few months in some cases for some of these altcoins. So Riot hasn't dumped as much, but again, if you got it now, about 68%. Mara. So Mara is actually holding up the best of all of these, so not as big of a move, but again, it's a bigger market cap, so a little bit less risk. Of course, that's, it's still risky, make no mistake. I mean, crypto is volatile, period. So 56% on that move. So now if we go over to the Robinhood portfolio, we want to show you guys this. So obviously, since the market got smashed, all of our options trades are in the money, so that's good. They're either going to expire worthless at this point, or we can just buy back for a discount compared to the premium that we got paid. So we did add, we did actually add over 100 more shares of HUD8. So as you guys can see now, excuse me, we have 209 shares of HUD8, so quite a few shares here. It has dropped more. We might still buy more, even more after this. So we currently have 300 shares of BTBT and Cypher, and we also added another 200 shares of SoundHound. Excuse me. Give me just one sec, guys. I'll be back. Okay, so kind of the main point here that I want to make is, in my opinion, of course, Bitcoin and Ethereum could go higher, but Bitcoin and Ethereum compared to the rest of the cryptocurrency assets that we are buying, or that you guys could buy, in my opinion, is expensive. Okay, in terms of expensive to cheap, I would say that Bitcoin is the most expensive right now. Ethereum is the second most expensive, because, I mean, we could do measured moves off of this. Obviously, Bitcoin's not that far from all-time highs. And then you guys can see that Ethereum is quite a ways from all-time highs. And then the altcoins obviously are further from all-time highs. So 27% on this one. Bitcoin's, I can pretty much guarantee it's less than 27%. It's well, it's all relative. I mean, if these all go to all-time highs, then this whole point doesn't mean anything. But if the confluence in the markets and seasonality play out, we could see some pretty juicy discounts for the next 4 or 5 weeks. But I would say Bitcoin's most expensive, Ethereum's second most expensive. The altcoins are less expensive than those two. And I would say the altcoins and the grayscale trusts are probably equally inexpensive. So a lot of these grayscale trusts are also quite inexpensive compared to the peaks, as you guys can see here. There's still massive, massive upside with this. Just kind of at a bird's eye view, these are all very inexpensive. And then, in my opinion, the cheapest things to buy right now are the Bitcoin miner stocks. So enter into these at your own risk. Do understand that crypto can have massive pullbacks. I kind of want to point out one more time that every time we got massively overextended from the EMAs, we did end up having some chop and or a dump. This dump here was absolutely huge. It was 54%. This can happen in crypto, just so y'all know. This dump here was about 53%. And then this dump from this swing high here, which clearly was obviously not as overextended, was a massive 67%. And this is on Bitcoin, mind you. So these things can happen, and the price is massively overextended from the EMAs at this point. In terms of where we're at in our crypto positions, we feel like if we spend nothing else on crypto, we do not buy another penny worth of crypto of any kind, that we're going to be set for the bull run. Okay. We could choose not to buy any more crypto, whether it goes up or down. And as long as we hold through the cycle peak, we are good to go. We're going to make out like bandits, so to speak, and we're going to make a lot of money. We could just put all of that money into dividend paying stocks and not pay attention to crypto for the remainder of the bull run and just sell it at the peak or around the peak, and we'd be good to go. But it's a rare opportunity. I mean, when Bitcoin does top out, and it eventually will, and it'll have a massive dump, regardless of whether these institutions are in or not. Most likely that's what's going to happen. I don't really see that changing, especially with the whales still being in the markets. And they're not going anywhere. I can guarantee you of that. Well, I can't guarantee it, but nearly 100% guarantee. I would say that at some point, Bitcoin will break its all-time highs. Okay. And when it does, the parabolic phase of the bull run will be on. There will be a blow off top. Bitcoin will probably retrace 60 to 80%, somewhere in there. Wouldn't surprise me. And the altcoins will get smashed 80 to 90%. And then, we'll be out at the peak, and then we'll save probably a portion of that money for the bottom of the bear market, and basically just rinse and repeat, get back in at the bottom or near the bottom, and, DCA in throughout the bear market. That's kind of the plan. So, anything's possible here. Just keep this in mind. Bitcoin could smash all-time highs in the next few days or next few weeks, or it could have a massive drop, potentially down to, as we said before, as little as roughly about 25%, and as much potentially as up to 41%, I would say, is realistic. Either scenario could happen. Either way, we're good. We have money set on the side to buy the dip, and we also have skin in the game in case it goes higher. So either way, we're good. Again, do your own research. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Do understand that these assets are risky. It's not financial advice, but these are the most volatile assets on the planet. So keep that in mind. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.